Hi everyone, and welcome to Off the Arrow Shelf Podcasts. This podcast is aimed at people who are interested in field archery here in the UK. We'll cover coaching tips, advice on shooting, shoot reviews, and we might even manage to have some guests. I'm your host, Rob, and I hope you enjoy it. Hi everyone, and in this episode I thought I would actually go through the equipment that I carry on me when I go on a field shoot. The idea is simply that the outdoor season is starting for some people, and field archery is a little different to target because you're going to be carrying stuff with you as you're wandering around a woodland, as you're running around the course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what I carry in my quiver and what is on my quiver belt. And I'm actually going to start with quiver belt before anything else. My quiver belt is what some people call a security belt. It's quite a heavy duty belt. It's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches across, or wide if you like, and it's a Velcro fastening so that I can adjust it really easily, and that's very, very important. It gives me an infinite amount of adjustment so that if it's wet weather, cold day, and I'm wearing a couple of extra layers, I can easily adjust the belt. I don't have to worry about, is it fitting in the right hole or the next hole in my belt. The other thing about these security belts is they don't deform under load, and I found that with some leather belts that they will sometimes, if they're not a particularly strong belt, they'll deform by the time you've actually got a lot of stuff on them. In addition to the belt, what I've actually got is... I've just knocked some of my arrows over. That's really not a good start. I've got a boning. I've always got that name wrong. Support belt, which is basically a padded piece that goes between me and the belt, and it just allows you to carry a little bit more weight, a little bit more comfortably. Okay, working around the belt, I've got a bowl holder or a drinks holder on the belt. I've got a small trekking first aid kit, and people will say, well, why are you carrying a first aid kit? I have always carried one, and it's got everything in there from tick removers to plasters, some paracetamol, different dressings, micropore tape. You can pick them up really easy. This is a Life Systems one. You can get them from Cotswold Outdoors or most outdoor shops. Make sure the content is up to date. What I do, I'm just going to open this one. What I do is, because the actual bag itself has got really battered, I've had this one for about 8-9 years and I need to get a new one. Because they get battered, what I've done is all the bandages, all the plasters and everything are in little Ziploc bags. And that basically means it doesn't matter if it's raining and the bag gets wet, the content is still usable. The other thing I've got on there is a small pouch for my Leatherman's multi-tool. I carry a Leatherman's multi-tool with me all the time. They are fantastic. They're relatively inexpensive. It's got a sharp knife blade on there, but it's got a pair of pliers, and those pliers are incredibly useful for getting piles out of targets, and that does happen out of trees if your arrows miss. On to the quiver. The quiver I have experimented with different quivers over the years, back quivers, hip quivers, and this is a field quiver. It is a large quiver. In fact, I'm going to measure it now for you so you can get an idea. There's 4 tubes in it, and it's 21 inches in length, and it's about 6 inches or 5.5 inches across. It's got an upper pouch at the top of the quiver, a smaller pouch at the bottom, and it's also, there's a pouch up by the belt. Now, I'll start with that pouch first off. If I open that up, what have I got in there? I have got my stringer for my bow, so I can string my bow. I have got my National Field Archery Society membership card. I've also got my Briar Rose card and my Long Eaton Field Archers card in there as well. This is really important because it's identification when you're on a shoot. When you book into a competition, they will ask to see you've got an up-to-date NFAS card, and the NFAS is a kind of pinkish colour this year. They change each year. That's on a key ring. Also on the key rings, I've actually got 2 whistles on this key ring. The reason I've got 2 whistles is simply because of the fact when I was doing some coaching the other day, I picked up my coaching whistle that goes with all my coaching gear. And because I had my quiver on, I just naturally just put it into my quiver and onto a little carabiner on there, and I'd actually forgotten I've got another whistle on there already, so there you go. And the reason I'm saying it's a whistle is that under NFAS, if there's an emergency, if there's an event that takes place that you have to stop a shoot, 3 blasts of a whistle is the emergency stop. Signifies everybody should stop shooting. And if the incident's with yourself, you keep blowing 3 short blasts on the whistle until the marshals get to you. The other thing I've got on that keyring is a bug zapper, which is a little thing, it's a mosquito zapper, and you kind of got a big red button on it and you press it. I'll put a link in the details of this. And what it does, it creates a tiny little electric shock. And it's quite useful if you get bitten by a bug or insects. If you zap yourself, people say, oh, it doesn't work. Well, actually, I find it does work, and it does actually help remove the pain of that insect bite. The other thing is I've got some grip cloth, the sort of stuff that you might see in caravans and motorhomes to stop plates moving around. I use it as a very simple arrow puller. It works really well. I've got a couple of, Sharon calls them ankle stockings, and they're like short stockings of about 12 inches, and they go over ladies' feet. You may wonder why I'm carrying them with me. I use them to go over the sleeve when I'm shooting, so that it keeps my waterproof coat out of the way if I'm wearing my waterproof coat. I use this rather than tubular grip, which you've probably seen, compression bandages, that kind of stuff, simply because it is strong enough to keep the clothes out of the way without it actually compressing my arms and cutting off the circulation. So that's the top pouch. Yes, I do carry quite a bit of stuff with me, but I do find it useful. On the other carabiner that's on my belt, I've actually got 2 shooting tabs. I always carry 2. I have 2 shooting tabs that are shot in and are usable. And also attached onto that carabiner is my arm guard, which was a very nice leather-made arm guard that my mum got me as a birthday present a few years ago from a leather shop in North Wales, in Ruthin in North Wales. The lady there makes absolutely beautiful. It's really soft. I can wear this directly on my skin, or I can wear it on my clothes. It is that comfy. Okay, on to the quiver. The rest of the quiver I have got on. There's 4 tubes in this quiver, so I can carry lots of arrows. I normally only carrying 3 arrows in my quiver. The rest are on a tube on my back. It simply means that they can keep undamaged and they can keep dry. I've got a bow square in my quiver. It doesn't take any space up and it just slides down the side by the tubes. I've got, I don't know, it's called an arrow cleaner, which is kind of like a little cloth which that allows you to clean your arrows if they go into the dirt. That's quite useful. Okay, into the pockets on the side of the quiver, I've got an arrow rake for finding arrows if they go into the dirt. As I said, opening the pouch and into the pouch, and out comes, oh, what a ton of stuff I carry with me. It's only when I start going through all this do I realise how much stuff I actually carry. I've got a small flathead screwdriver that's about 5 inches in length, and I use that to get arrows out if they go into the wood. I just tap it in above the shaft of the arrow, above the pile, and it saves using a knife or anything like that. And all I've done is, it's a flathead screwdriver, I've just filed the tip down, so to speak, so it's a bit easier to go into the wood, and I can actually put it into a wood frame or into the tree, tap it in, and then move it around, open up the hole that the arrow's gone in, and easily extract the arrow, all being well. I've got 3 marker pens one's a Sharpie and the others are actually just marker pens or pens in the quiver, so I can do scores. I do tend to end up doing scorings, so those are felt pens I can use to mark the arrows if I need to, but likewise I've got a couple of ballpoint pens in there as well. And I've just reached into that same pocket and found I've got 2 more, so I've actually got a load of pens in there. I wonder if they all work. I'll have to go and check them later. What else have I got in here? I have got an Allen key, which is for my bow. I've got a small Allen key. NFAS rulebook, so that if anybody starts asking questions about the NFAS or about the rules, I can turn around and say, well, here's the rulebook, we can check the details there and then. I've got another tab in here that hasn't been shot, and that's there for simply because I've got to start shooting it, and so I've got to trim that one down. So that's my next tab that I'm going to be using this year, and it's in there because I put it in there to actually mark up and sort it out for shooting on the range and never got round to it. So I'm going to take that out and actually make a note of actually trying to go through that. Put these pens back in there. So there you go, pens, screwdriver, spare string, though that's actually not for the bow I'm currently shooting, that's from my old bow, so I'll leave that out and make a note to go with a bow. I've got a small Ziploc bag here with a roll of micropore tape. I always carry micropore tape with me, it's incredibly useful, and if you go onto my website you'll find there's an article in there about what you can do with micropore tape if you're on a shoot, and I think it's titled 10 Uses of Micropore Tape. I've got a shooting glove, not for my right hand, which is for actually drawing the string, because as I said I'm using a tab. This is just a leather glove that goes on my left hand, so in particularly wet weather, cold days, I can put that glove on and my hand just stays that little bit warmer when I'm actually shooting the bow. Very useful because, you know, with the Samick Vision riser, it's a metal riser and it's freezing in cold weather. And with wooden bows, it's actually quite useful because of the fact that it gives me an extra grip and it reduces the chance of the bow actually moving in my hand. But the lower pouch, what have I got in there? Oh, how long are those biscuits been in there? I've got some Nature Valley Crunchy Oat and Honey biscuits, which are really useful to carry in your quiver because it gives you a snack as you go around. The only problem being that I think these were in from the last shoot I did and they've got a bit crushed. I've got some dental floss tape. I don't tend to use dental floss. I know a lot of people use it for their knocking points, but I don't tend to use it, but I picked some up again because I was doing some coaching. What else have I got in here? He says, reaching in, I have got, this is from Homebase, and this is a 9-piece metric hexagonal key set. So basically, Allen keys, some people call them. These are the right dimensions for my, the right dimensions for my Samick, and they're in there for that reason. And they've been in there for a while. What else have I got down here? I've usually got my Ventolin or a Ventolin because I'm asthmatic in my quiver as well. There's a tube of super glue in there as well for repairing on the spots repairs if I need it. And there's also a tube of HMG glue in there. I'd actually forgotten that HMG glue was in there. This is proving to be quite interesting because this is a live recording of me going through this quiver. So that's what I've got. That's what I carry in my quiver. As I said, it might not be of use to everybody, but I thought it might be of use for people to know what I carry and give people an idea. There is, as I said before, an article I wrote. I think I called it something like the Batman Utility Belt or Rob's Batman Utility Belt. I wrote it. I'm making a lot of crunching noises as I put these biscuits back in here. I do apologise in advance. I wrote it as something like Batman Utility Belt or the kitchen sink because I do carry a lot of stuff with me. Again, partly the reason for that is coaching. I carry it so I've got it in case I need it. The only other thing I do, and that's a couple of recent additions to the belt, is, as I said before, all my arrows are in the tube on my back, which is just a poster tube that I've reinforced so I can carry it for arrows. The only other couple of things that I've added recently is because I've been shooting some carbon arrows, I don't want to be drawing them with my hands, so I've got an arrow puller on the carabiner. And then I've got a small piece of hardened plastic card, which is about 5.5 inches by 9 inches with a big bulldog clip at the top and a clear perspex sheet over that. And the reason for that is it's the perfect size for most scorecards for championships or for shoots. And because I do a lot of scoring when we're shooting at competitions, it basically means that I can keep the scorecards together. They're not stuffed into a pocket, and if it's raining, I've got a cover on them. I've also, on that clear plastic sheet, what I've actually done is I've laminated up the details on what counts for line cutters and for scoring, and also what the different scoring values are. And the other useful thing is there's a breakdown of what peg positions that junior archers would shoot from. So like orange for the very young kids, and then under 12s is yellow, and 12, 13s and all that kind of stuff. Blue, white. I'm testing myself now. Is it blue, yellow, yellow? Yeah, blue, yellow. And it's just a very, very quick guide I can show to people. It helps a lot, and it means that when we're out on a shoot, I can keep the scores and I can keep everybody's details discreet and undercover. I'm not having to worry about, oh, did I put them in that pocket, or did I put them in another pocket, or did I drop them at the last peg, and that sort of thing. So that's my quiver. That's what I normally carry when I'm going out onto a shoot. As I said, I've got 3 arrows, usually maybe 4 in my quiver. It can take an awful lot more, but I don't like having those exposed to the elements, so I only carry those. And remember, I'm shooting wooden arrows, feather fletchings. If they get wet, the aerodynamics dramatically change. So what I've got is I've got a poster tube that's on my back, and I've just modified that slightly. I put some foam at the top and the bottom, so when I put the arrows in, they don't damage the actual tube. That's slung on my back, and I've got, well, if I'm doing a normal competition, I've probably got 7 or 8 spare arrows in that. If I'm doing a big 2-day competition, I've probably got 12 to 14 arrows in that tube. The reason for that is I'm carrying it with me, and I know I've got the spare arrows there. I've gone out in the past with 16 arrows in the tube, 4 arrows in my quiver, and been very fortunate that I've actually been able to get round the course because I've got enough spare arrows, and I don't have that worry. I've shot with other people who've gone out with a dozen arrows, and at some of the championship competitions have been lucky if they come back with 3 or 4 arrows. So it's better to have some spares. That's my quiver. When I'm out and about and when I'm shooting, I won't have a backpack with me. I have got one of those backpacks that convert into a seat. I've been using it recently. It's useful, but normally I don't need anything else. Where clothing is concerned, I've got a little pack-a-mac that packs up into a small pocket that can clip onto the quiver really easily. I've also got another pouch that I can drop onto my quiver, which has got a pair of over trousers. So if the weather's looking like it will be poor, I've got that with me if I want to take it. Otherwise, it's usually a case that I've got a waterproof jacket if I need it. The quiver, the nice thing about having that back support and the quiver belt is I can actually drop things between the two. So quite often, if the weather warms up or if it dries up and I've got a waterproof with me or a gilet, I'll drop it onto my belt and I can just carry it. It sounds like a lot, but I've literally carried this belt, and I've had this belt pretty much since I started. As I said, I did try with back quivers, I did try with other types of quivers, but I went back to this belt probably 10 years ago, and I've been using it pretty much solidly since then. It's made a huge difference for me. It's comfortable to wear, it's fully adjustable, and I can do, it's like when I did the Welsh Champs, you're walking 8.5 miles each day. I can do that comfortably with this on my side. I have been wondering about getting a smaller quiver, because this is a leather quiver, so it is quite heavy if it rains. I have been wondering about getting more of a pocket quiver, a bit like the push archery do, simply because I'm not carrying that many arrows with me, or I'm not carrying that many arrows in the quiver. Most of my arrows are in the tube on my back, So it kind of makes sense for me not to necessarily have such a large quiver. And the push ones and a few others that I've been looking at are quite useful because they'll accommodate pretty much everything I need that would go in the quivers. So that's basically it. Sensible shoes, sensible boots, and I've got a waterproof hat I wear, which you'll probably see if you've gone onto the website. It's really useful because it's quite a wide brim and it keeps the rain out of my face and off my glasses when I'm shooting in poor weather. It also keeps the sun out of my eyes when I'm shooting. All in all, a lot of people will wander around with a lot less stuff in their quiver. Granted, as I said, a lot of people don't carry first aid kits. The minimum I would say that you need to carry is spare arrows, a spare string, a spare tab. I said I carry a first aid kit. Make sure you've got a water bottle with you. And if you're shooting ANFAS, if you've got to be triggering some kind of emergency, ensure that you've got a whistle. I made a comment earlier, I carry a Ventolin with me because I'm asthmatic. That's always on my pouch. So those would be the minimums. Something to drink, something to trigger an alert, a spare string, a spare glove or tab if you're using that. And that's pretty much it. I've got no idea how much all this stuff weighs. I'm kind of holding in one hand now. Suddenly start thinking, actually, that's weighing quite a lot. Check my website out because I do stuff on first aid kits. And this is the time of year that I'll start going through my first aid kit and throwing out everything that's going to be out of date in a few weeks' time, a few months' time. And I'll replenish that. The dressings and stuff, the bandages that don't get used, I actually give to the scouts. Because my wife does, as you know, she's a assistant scout leader, and they do first aid and emergency sort of first aid stuff there, and they're forever looking for bandages and the like, so that the young scouts and the beavers and the cubs can all experiment and bandage up their teddy bears to get an idea of how the bandage works. The other thing I use the bandages for and the dressings for when they've gone out of date is for making fire lighters. And all I do then is I get a egg carton and I melt down some wax from old candles that we've got and a little bit of, the lint that you get out your tumble dryer. So I put a layer of the dressing material in, I put some lint on top of that, another layer of the dressing materials, all in the egg cartons, the cardboard egg cartons, pour some wax in, let it all set, and then I've got some really quick fire starters that I can use for getting outside fires going if we've got them going when we're camping or anything like that. They work really well, very simple to use. I tend to put one of them into a paper bag with a load of old broken arrows and various kind of other combustibles, and it means I can get the light of the fire going really easily with throw that at the base, kindling on top, some larger sticks on top of that, and it works really well. Okay, so that I've gone off at a tangent there. I apologise. That's what I carry with me when I'm out and about. That's when on a normal shoot. And as I said, the only thing I might add to that is some waterproof gear if the weather's not looking great. Hopefully that's of use to you. And let me know if you carry any stuff or if you think I'm being a little over the top with the amount of stuff I carry. In the meantime, take care, keep safe, and enjoy your shooting.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with any questions or suggestions for future podcasts, then drop me a line. My email address is offthearrowshelf@yahoo.co.uk. That's offthearrowshelf@yahoo.co.uk. Or you can check out the website offthearrowshelf.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening.